AIM-listed Strategic Minerals, the diversified mineral development and production company, has announced today that it's exercised its option to take a 50% stake in the Cornish Redmoor tin tungsten mine, where it previously held 16.4%. Outside of this, the company has also recently reported a 24% increase in magnetite production to a record at its mine in New Mexico. Joining us now is a major shareholder of Strategic Minerals, Peter Wale, who is also non-executive director at the company. Peter, welcome.
Hi, good morning.
First of all, Redmoor. This is Cornish tin mine. There's a lot of romanticism around this sort of project at the moment. But tell us what's going on there and the bare bones of the project that you're hoping to reveal.
Okay. We've been very active recently, and activity is increasing a lot, so it's getting to an exciting stage when we're actually looking to prove up the high-grade resource and drill to look for where the tin veins are lying at the moment. There was some drilling done in the 80s, and we've got a lot of results of that which make us confident that the tin is definitely there. We know there's a big resource. We want to focus on the high grade, and we believe there may be 3 times the amount of high grade. So it's technically, I guess you could say somebody said pole darking to me this week, but
yeah, you know. That goes back to the romantic side of things, I guess. But this is the front part of mining, the point end, if you like. Yeah. Why wasn't this mined in the 80s? What was it that in the 80s created an environment that didn't make it economic?
There was a company that was looking to mine the project, but the tin cartel collapsed in the 80s, and the tin price collapsed. So nothing was economic to pursue. I mean, it was a very dark time for the industry in general, and that's why all of the mines eventually closed, like South Crofty eventually.
Well, tin, of course, last year had a really good year last year for the price of the metal. You're also mining tungsten, which had a bad year last year. How do you see this mine developing, bearing in mind you've got tungsten potential as well?
I think tungsten is a very opaque market, and it's used for drill bits, which is something which could be increasing soon as more oil projects go and that sort of thing. But it's really the tin where there's a big deficit. Tin is used a lot by China. Tin's used a lot in semiconductors. There's a very strong demand for tin, and there's an acknowledged deficit for at least 5 years ahead. Whereas for some of the other metals, there's still decent supply. So,
okay, well let's take a look at the drill program this year. What are you hoping to come out of 2017 so far as the drill program is concerned? Which I understand, because of this deal today, it's now all financed. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we took the project last year, and it's been in live status ever since. Now it takes time to go through permits, procedures, deals with landowners for access, all of those sort of things. We're in very close contact with the local council, the mayor, and so on. We start drilling soon. We're saying during the first half of the year. Hopefully it will be sooner than that, and then there'll be some results in batches of the drills, and we take it from there once we have the results in terms of moving the project forward. What's
Kelly Bray like as an environment to mine in? Because Cornwall has areas of outstanding natural beauty. What's Kelly Bray like?
Kelly Bray is a sort of semi-industrial town inland. It's very close to Callington, where Ginster's pasties are based. The old Redmoor mine site is, there's some old shafts there which are closed. There's a few pieces of industrial buildings, but the whole area in general is riddled with shafts and other adits, and farmers have told us lots of stories about their fields that they've found things or lost tractors down shafts and things like that. So it's very interesting. Kit Hill is the big monument that overlooks the whole area, and you can see almost to the coast. I mean, it is a very interesting area.
Okay, that's the speculative part of the business. Let's talk about where some of the money is being earned for Strategic Minerals at the moment. And this is in New Mexico, the Cobre mine. We've heard recently that they've done very well there. The business has produced record amounts of revenue from there recently, up 24%, I think it was last year. How is Cobre going to be developed in 2017? Can we expect more of the same this year than we saw last year in New Mexico?
I would really hope so. We're constantly in talks with new customers, and there's huge optionality going forward now that Cobre is generating enough revenue that it's not only profitable in its own right, but it's making Strategic Minerals profitable at the corporate level. With Cobre and magnetite, I don't know how familiar you are with it, but it's used for strengthening or increasing the density of things like concrete, cement. It's used in fertilizers. So with something like Trump's infrastructure program, if there's more demand for construction, that could play into our hands. We also have been mainly selling into more the local area, states like California. That could be expanded further. It really comes down to where we can transport and deliver magnetite at a competitive rate. And just general prosperity, you've got the dollar strength, commodities priced in dollars as well. That's all good translation for us.
Let's get to a couple of client questions if we can, and take a look at some of these. One of the questions that's come in is, what in your opinion are the biggest risks to the current strategy of delivering shareholder value? And this of course is across the portfolio business for Strategic.
I think with the Cobra operation, which significantly underwrites the entire business, that immediately takes away almost any risk to the company, because versus probably any of our AIM-listed peers who are perhaps valued at quite a lot more, none of them make profit. They're all raising money to spend or to pay for their corporate costs, whereas we're actually self-sufficient. I think the market probably hasn't given us full credit for that. But so if you like, one of the greatest risks, i.e. insolvency from not being able to raise money to keep going, is removed by that. And it's enabled us to, we are now fully funded for all of this year. We've now handed over our funding for the Redmoor project in Cornwall. We have the optionality there. We've got a drilling program going on in Australia at the moment. That's also fully funded. So if you like, we've paid our premiums for our options, and we may yet collect on them. So there's significant optionality there. So I'd actually say there's almost no risk. Okay,
we'll take a look at the share price in just a minute on that point. Second question, what is the current cash burn, and when will the company be cash positive? I think you probably somewhat answered this really, because you're broadly producing profits at Cobra.
Yeah, we have strong cash flow and we're generating profits. And as I said as well, because of the dollar translation, that's even better for us. Most of our corporate costs are obviously in sterling. All of our revenues and profits are in dollars currently. So, yeah, we are generating cash as opposed to burning it.
And what are you doing with that cash? You pile it all back into the business, or will there be ultimately some reward for shareholders in other ways?
I think in the long term, we'd love to pay dividends. That's the aim of a company that keeps moving up to the next levels and has a long-term future. We're probably always going to be looking at projects and expanding and trying to be innovative with deals that who knows what could happen this year going forward.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the share price if we can, and bring up the share price. This is a 3-year chart, and we see that in top left-hand corner you can see quite clearly the highs that we've seen over the last 3 years at around about the 2.4 pence level. Here we are now at half of a penny. What I want to do is, if I can, for the last question from clients, is ask you to put your investment hat on. You're an investor in the company. I think you're the single largest investor at 3.8%. What are your own private share price targets and timelines?
Interesting question. So you picked a 3-year chart, which is actually quite good, because that's around the time I first started buying the stock as an investor.
So you've already lost ground from an investor point of view?
Actually no, because my average price is probably around 0.3.
Right.
So I invested originally and started building a position because I felt it was a long-term recovery situation where Cobra was, and still is to a certain extent, an undersung part of the business. If you throw in optionality on top, then it's impossible to really say how much value the TIM project or the projects in Australia could generate, but they could be multiples of the current market cap. The market cap's only just over 6 million. Cobra may be enough to justify the market cap on its own. So if you throw in the other two, and they're both very much live, active projects, management have options which vest they need to vest with the share price at 1.5 or 3p. So management feel those are realistic. As an investor, I'd be interested in that. I believe we're looking at multiples of the current share price, not 10, 20%, that sort of thing.
I noticed in director dealings recently you've bought shares recently in the company. What did you buy and for what reason?
I'd been waiting to buy for some time. We raised money recently and the directors were inside, so were unable to participate. The MD, John Peters, bought after the placing at a higher price. I also bought at a higher price as well. We're very supportive, and we feel that there's great potential. There was also a new shareholder on the register the day that I added. I actually met with him last week. He's just bought over 3% of the company. He has a very similar viewpoint to myself from an investment perspective in terms of the long-term potential for the company. So we're looking forward to welcome new holders.
Let's round it off then and ask you to put your non-exec hat back on and talk a little bit more about the corporate for 2017. What do you expect in terms of some of the headlines this year? Clearly Redmoor is going to be delivering some interesting headlines from the drill programme. What else do you expect from the company? You mentioned Australia. What else is the company doing that could develop headlines this year?
I think the short answer is probably watch this space, but in terms of specifics, Redmoor is going to be generating a lot of news. With the active drilling programme, there's going to be lots going on there. In terms of Australia, that's probably been a bit quiet and in the background. I would think that's going to come back into focus because...
What is the mine there?
Well, there's a drilling programme. We've done some work on nickel sulphide prospect. We are going to drill for gold in Mount Wale. There's also some rare earths as well. So we're working on the next stage of the drilling programme there to better prove up the resources. So that could definitely come back into the fore. Cobra, we are talking to the operator to extend the access. That will be key news, I think, going forward because it underwrites the income that we get from Cobra, which drives the profits.
Well, look, we look forward to hearing more, and as you say, watch this space. Peter, thanks so much indeed. Peter Wale is a 3.8% investor in strategic minerals and also a non-executive director at the company. They're talking about 2017.